Micromix example.
Can you count that? The short age, long age, I actually forgot to know.
All the feelings we got.
Wait, what's your question? Yeah, so your question.
Actually, I told you.
You use what? Sorry.
I just showed you.
Oh, it's got your
Your open you did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got over, yeah.
Okay. Punch out, I'm gonna start.
Okay.
Okay, decide. Hi guys, so this is our statistic project, yeah. Okay, so it's me, Yuan, right? Okay, we got Zhang Yu right there, and then we got Michelle, we got Megan, and then we got K-Ing.
I came out here.
I said K-Ing. Yes. Alright, moving on.
I got one more only. Sorry.
Alright, so basically our table of contents will be covering today topic of interest, our formulating questions, how we formulate our questions, how we collected our data, our questions, then to our conclusion, then lastly our resources. Moving on. So here's our topic of interest. Why are teenagers not sleeping? Now, go. Alright, cool. So some background info, right, is that the decrease in the volume to sleep, that's one big thing that we are trying to target. So nowadays people are sleeping at later times, and this has become like a huge part of student life. Like we look around and like ask around people. In general, we students now, we realize that we have been sleeping later and later and later. So that's one of the big reasons. And next is fatigue. Despite the importance that we have noticed, many of our peers actually like feeling tired throughout the day, so that's one. And our interest is, hence we want to know if our respondents are getting the right amount of sleep. So our population that we wish to study are the 15 to 21 years old age range. Okay. So the best way that we found to collect data was to use simple random sampling, which because it's like not feasible to actually interview or ask every 15 to 21 year old in Singapore. So we decided to take a sample size study. Moving on. Now, so we actually garnered a total of 46 responses from Google Form. Yeah. So now to our questions.
So at like 7 questions. So these are the questions that you can see. Like for example, are you male or female? We ask them generic questions like are you male or female and how old are they? And this will provide us like the data for us to make the graph later on that you can see.
Okay, so the first question is, are you male or female? And we found out that most of our respondents are actually female. We got 27 responses from males. And the reason why we chose a pie chart, right, is because it looks like visually much easier to process, and also it helps with smaller data sets. So like with small data sets, right, it's much easier to present on a pie chart as opposed to other charts.
So our second question is how old are they? And most of them are age 17, which is our age. Our youngest respondent was 13 and the oldest was 22. We used a bar graph because there's a lot of subcategories, so it's easier to see the ages. And if I were to use like a pie chart, it would be very clustered and hard to see the difference. Yeah.
And the third question is actually, do you know the difference? Different level of sleeping. Yeah, so we actually found out that like slightly more than half of them know the different levels of sleeping, while the other half, about like 40+%. Didn't know. Sorry, I forgot the number. But anyways, I chose this graph because there's only 2 sets of data. There isn't like 5 sets of data, so it's easier to see from the pie chart also. Because I was also thinking of doing a bar graph, but there was too much like. Yes, it's very hard to see. what's the difference, especially with like the close number of respondents. Yeah.
Alright. So for my questions, how many hours are you sleeping on average? So now we actually found from the data that most of our respondents sleep for 5 hours. And I chose this graph because you can easily tell right from like the huge bar right there that like the most numbers of people are actually sleeping 5 hours. So moving on to the next slide. So why a bar chart instead of a pie chart? So a pie chart is not a good representation because the categories will be too distracting and look like all over the place in a way. If I was to put like 10 different topics and have to label them, it's very hard to see. Another thing is there are too many sections that may look similar in terms of data. Because we have multiple like data, we actually have like very small numbers and they might look the same, right? And it's hard to tell the difference. Now, a bar graph is a greater representation because it's suitable for how many categories there are and it's easier to tell the difference. Now, moving on to question 5. Now, how often do our subjects feel sleepy a day? So, more than half experience sleepiness 5 times or more a day. And I chose this graph right here because it's easy to see like the area that it covers. It's easy to see that from 5 to 10 a day as the majority of responses by looking at how much area is taking up. Right, moving on.
Moving on to question 6. The sixth question is how is the quality of your sleep? And now, as you can see from the bar chart, most have mid to good quality of sleep with an even spread between poor and very good and excellent. Now, the reason why I chose the bar chart to represent this data is because we can see the data more easily, and we can see the difference between them more easily from the height. And also, while this is an unintended feature, I decided to put my reasoning as you can see that from left to right is from poor to excellent, which will allow the audience to see where the most people are ranging on the spectrum. Okay, now moving on to question 7.
So for the last question is what is keeping you up at night? Through this, we realized that one of the biggest response to this was social media, and it has 18 people who said that it was the reason why they were awake. And the reason why I chose a bar graph, right, is because it's easier to interpret the data if we spread out like this. And since there's so much more variables, it's much easier to see compared to other graphs.
So our conclusion is that most young adults aren't really getting enough sleep and they're only getting 5 hours. And usually it's recommended that you have 8 hours of sleep. And this might most probably be because of social media, because most of our respondents actually indicated that social media is actually stopping them from like sleeping earlier at night. Last but not least, we must acknowledge the importance of sleep. And not sleeping enough may negatively impact our lives by making us feel sleepy in the day, and this might affect our daily tasks, for example, going to school, etc. And therefore, we recommend all of y'all to reach the recommended hours of sleep, which is 8 hours. Thank you. These are research.
Okay, thank you. Anyone got question for them?